Everybody ready? Great. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Today we're going to talk about a recent child predator sting operation we conducted here at Fairfax County Police Department. Speaking today will be Chief Kevin Davis, Superintendent Dr. Michelle Reed of the Fairfax County Public Schools, and our Major Elizabeth Melendez of the Major Crimes Bureau. Chief?
Thanks, Katie, and good morning, everyone. It's always great to be joined by such a great partner in Dr. Reed and her team with Fairfax County Public Schools. I've served in 4 jurisdictions over the years, and this relationship with the public school system is the best I've ever experienced. So I can't thank Dr. Reed and her team enough. Sometimes we come across some challenging moments like the ones we're going to talk about today, and the success of these moments requires us to constantly communicate and collaborate, and we do that consistently. So the first case we're going to talk about is what we call on the police department a traveler's operation. We have child exploitation detectives who do a lot of tough work, work that really most detectives aren't exposed to. But on occasion, we'll do an operation like this one to engage online predators who seek to interact with children, boys and girls, and solicit sex or sex acts from children. And our very own detectives actually pose as young people. Our detectives are required by law to identify as a child. They're required to talk about specific sex acts. There's no entrapment associated with any of these operations whatsoever. We are remarkably transparent to people who are soliciting sex from children. And then, in fact, after we establish probable cause, we arrange to meet that predator and we make an arrest. And in this case, the Major Elizabeth Melendez is going to talk about 7 people that we arrested just last week. One of those persons arrested, Richard Berkowitz, was past tense, a Falls Church High School PE teacher, and we're going to talk about him as well. And then when we wrap up our presentations and comments, and Dr. Reed will comment on that, and we'll both take questions. When we wrap up the traveler's operation portion of this news conference, then we'll go into the arrest of John Barber. John Barber was a Fairview Elementary School teacher who was wrapped up in an investigation where he harmed 2 girls. And we'll talk about how that investigation unfolded after the initial part. So Major Melendez will come up and give you some play-by-play of the traveler's operation, why we do it, how we do it, and the results the arrests that resulted. Major.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. Detectives from the Major Crimes Bureau's Child Exploitation Unit arrested 7 predators last week who were using the internet to exploit children. Our detectives conducted an operation where they utilize online platforms and phone applications to engage in conversations with individuals. During these online encounters, the perpetrators initiated explicit conversations with detectives posing as children, soliciting sex acts from their underage personas. When the suspects agreed to meet the juvenile persona at a location, detectives were waiting to take them into custody. On several occasions, these predators sent explicit images of themselves to the detectives, while also soliciting explicit images of the minor in return. These predators ranged in age from 24 to 50 years old. These suspects traveled to Fairfax County from areas in and around the D.C. metro region, but the detectives were also solicited by an individual from New York. In that case, partners with the New York Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force took that suspect into custody, and he's currently awaiting extradition to Fairfax County. 25 felony charges were placed, ranging from taking indecent liberties with children, production of child pornography, the use of a communication system to facilitate certain offenses involving children, using vehicles to promote unlawful sexual intercourse with a child, and causing or encouraging acts rendering children delinquent. While the goal of this operation was to arrest predators who are targeting our community's youth, we also want to ensure parents know the warning signs or red flags to look for on their children's devices. Parents are encouraged to know their child's passwords and have access to their children's devices. It is important for parents to have conversations about chatting with people online. Ensure your child reports anyone who tries to engage them in conversation to you immediately, and make sure they do not respond to anyone who is unfamiliar to them. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, more commonly known as NCMEC, also has valuable resources to further educate parents on navigating these situations. The Fairfax County Police Department remains dedicated to protecting our community and especially our children. I am proud of our detectives for removing 7 predators from our community, and they continue to work tirelessly to ensure the safety of our youth. Thank you, and at this time, we'll take questions.
We'll get Dr. Reed first.
Okay. Dr. Reed?
Do Dr. Reed and then Q&A.
Thank you, Chief Davis. And I just want to reiterate the Chief's comments that we work in very close partnership with law enforcement anytime there are allegations of a crime that might involve one of our students, staff, or our community. The safety, security, and well-being of our students remains a top priority here in Fairfax County Public Schools, and we take incidents, particularly such as these of barrier crimes, very seriously and act immediately upon news of these crimes. When these crimes become a topic, we work very closely and are in a tight partnership with our law enforcement community, and are grateful for the hard work and dedication of these committed law enforcement officers in keeping our schools safe. We also understand that this is upsetting news to our community, and I'm sorry that we have to report news of this nature. We have 40,000 staff that come to school each and every day and work in Fairfax County Public Schools to ensure a world-class education for our students, and our commitment to keep our students safe while we're ensuring that world-class education continues as a paramount priority. So again, I want to thank our law enforcement colleagues for their partnership and appreciate that we've addressed the situation in such a manner. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. And before we get into the Q&A, this operation offers some unique elements. And when we arrested Berkowitz right in the middle of our travelers operation, we started on a Monday, and then we ended with his arrest, or we started Monday, January 27th with the travelers operation. And just 2 days later, we started developing probable cause and actually arrested Richard Berkowitz. FCPD, like we always do, makes immediate notification to FCPS. But in this particular case, I made a personal request of Dr. Reed to hold on to that information because Berkowitz was in fact in custody, and divulging circumstances and content surrounding his arrest during the middle of an operation like this would in essence shut down our operation. So he was in custody, he was being held at the Adult Detention Center. I knew where he was, and I asked Dr. Reed and her folks to hold on to the arrest announcement because after all, we were going to hold on the arrest announcement, as we always do with travelers operations, until today. So we are in fact making the announcement today. FCPS is making the announcement, the parental notifications that they normally do today as well, consistent with how we make these notifications, both with each other and with the community. So I say that to anticipate some questions. So Nick, I'll take your first question.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
And Superintendent, thanks for taking our questions. With Richard Berkowitz, does he have a criminal history? Has he been arrested before in Fairfax County?
He does not have a criminal history. He does not have a criminal history. We have had contact with him in the past, though.
And Superintendent, I understand that, just like the Chief said, he asked you to withhold parental notifications on this for the reasons he just explained. But when did you become aware? What date? Do you recall what date he told you?
I think the Chief indicated the date. He shared that with us, and the 27th of January.
The 27th of January. Was he suspended on that day or the next day?
we took internal action to make sure he would not have access to schools immediately upon hearing that information from Chief Davis.
And Chief Davis, we spoke about Richard Berkowitz. The other suspects in his case, do they have any criminal history in Fairfax County?
I'm careful on criminal history questions, Nick, and only because I don't want to cast aspersions that can be interpreted as prejudging people who have been accused with crime. So it's something I've done for a couple of years now. I don't speak about people's criminal histories, adults, because that information is readily available to you and other journalists.
I do have some questions about John Barker, but I didn't know if you wanted to wait for that.
Yeah, we're going to transition to that. So any other questions about Berkowitz? About Berkowitz. Okay, so John Barber, the teacher, I think he was a PE instructor at Fairview Elementary School, and bear with me with these dates. On Friday, January 17th, a young girl and her mother appeared at Fairview Elementary School and made a disclosure about a sexual assault. FCPS immediately notified Child Protective Services. That's what they consistently do all the time. Child Protective Services immediately notified FCPD. So all on that day, Friday, January 17th, a victim and her mom are at the school, Child Protective Services is at the school, and we're at the school with Fairfax County Public Schools. We notify FCPS that day. The very next day, Saturday, January 18th, FCPS puts Barger on administrative leave, and Dr. Reed can certainly add to that. But it was an immediate action that the school took to protect students and others because, in fact, we had not yet charged Barger with a crime. He was a person of interest. He was a suspect. We did not have probable cause to charge Barger with a crime on the day we were notified of his suspected crimes. But the investigation commenced, and the investigation spanned 20 days. During those 20 days, and this is what happens during investigations, a second victim, another young girl, was identified as a victim. So when we eventually charged Barger on Thursday, February 6th, we notified FCPS of those criminal charges. The next day, Friday, February 7th, a FCPD press release goes out, and Fairfax County Public Schools issues a parental notification. So this one worked like clockwork. When we were notified of a suspected, of a teacher suspected of committing a crime, we don't always have immediate probable cause to make an arrest, but the school, and they certainly did it this time, and they do it every time, applied discretion immediately and put that teacher on administrative leave to get any students out of potential harm's way. So I can turn it over to Dr. Reed if you want to add some color to that, and then we can take questions.
Sure. Thank you, Chief Davis. I think it's important to note that as soon as we were made aware of the circumstances, our staff responded exactly as they're directed to and contacted the appropriate authorities. Those authorities then have to have time to investigate. In other words, as Chief Davis said, there was not yet at that time probable cause, there were allegations. So our HR department and legal, it's clear that we do not talk about personnel matters that are not in a situation where we have an arrest or charges. So in this case, we did not communicate with parents until we actually were noticed that there were charges and an arrest that were going to occur because the police were conducting their investigation to determine probable cause.
And I'll just add, Nick, to that a little bit. That's consistent with the governor's executive order. It's pursuant to an arrest. So just want to make a point. Regarding parental notifications. I think you're probably familiar.
I believe that's on overdoses, not sexual assaults. But Chief and Major, do you suspect there are additional victims?
Yeah, so as police officers and detectives, and there's many detectives in this room, we always think that way. So because of that, we've collected digital evidence and other forensic evidence. So far, we have zero information to indicate there are additional victims. But that door is open. If we stumble upon evidence or witnesses who want to come forward, or parents who talk to their kids and want to contact the police department or the schools, start with the schools by all means. That door is always open, but so far, we have no evidence and no reason to believe that there are additional victims in the schools.
I think that the other thing that's important to note is in our communication home, we did provide parents with a tip line and access information for law enforcement if they have any information or feel like their child might have been a victim. And we really encourage our community to pay attention to that and to pay attention to those notices so that they can contact law enforcement if they do feel like their child has been victimized. Further, in Mr. Berkowitz's case, we're dealing with a situation that, to our knowledge, no FCPS student was involved in that arrest or in the current charges being levied against Mr. Berkowitz.
And Superintendent, I have a question on John Bartlett. From what I understand, you became aware that he was accused of sexually assaulting a student on January 17th. Notification goes out to parents last Friday on February 7th. Why did it take Fairfax County Public Schools 22 days to tell parents that an accusation had been made against one of their teachers?
So there are allegations made, I wouldn't say on a frequent basis, but there are a number of allegations with a workforce of 40,000 staff. And so what we always want to ensure is that those allegations are properly and thoroughly investigated by the entity entrusted to do those investigations, which in this case was law enforcement. So the information we had was turned over to law enforcement, as we do, as a matter of course, and at such time that they had probable cause to develop charging documents, that's the point where we will notify parents. And we're currently also answering questions of parents who continue to have questions around Mr. Barger.
So is the standard operating procedure for FCPS to wait for charging documents, is that right?
In a case where we have allegations that are unfounded, it's a standard procedure to make sure that we're able to have law enforcement found those allegations or investigate those. And then at such time, the chief and I talk frequently, and our Office of Safety and Security as well. We have, as you know, school resource officers in all our secondary, middle, and high schools. So we have a very tight partnership. And at such point where we are faced with charges or arrests, we absolutely will immediately notify parents. When we're notified of allegations or concerns, we take immediate action to remove any individual that could possibly not be safe as those investigations take place.
I understand, Superintendent, that you would want the police to investigate the claims, but 22 days for a lot of people, that's a long time, especially parents who have kids at that school. And I understand you might not want to name the accused in an email right away. And I don't think people expect you to notify them within 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours, but within the next few days. Couldn't FCPS have sent an email saying, hey, we're aware of a serious allegation that police are investigating involving a Fairview Elementary School teacher? We encourage parents to have conversations with their kids if they've ever been inappropriately touched, whether in school or out of school.
So I'm going to defer to Chief Davis on the length of an investigation for different types of allegations, because I don't have the expertise to determine 20, 22 days or what would be generally feasible with that. So Chief, if you want to.
Yeah. So Nick, I think I understand your question. I think it was 20 days, but my math could be wrong. I was an English major. So for an investigation to take place from the moment of an accusation by a child and her mom to have a investigation span 20 days or 22 days and have that investigation conclude with probable cause to arrest two people is consistent with our normal cadence. What's also consistent with our normal cadence is our communication with FCPS. We certainly don't want FCPS to communicate something that could jeopardize the integrity of our investigation. And I'm not suggesting that you're suggesting that. But once FCPS was notified, they applied their own discretion and removed that teacher from the school. That administrative leave That's something that FCPS does consistently, and I would say it's a best practice, not only in our relationship, but for other school systems to follow. So I do think I understand your question, but the moment we were able to establish probable cause and the moment we were able to make an arrest, we communicated that with FCPS. They follow our lead with our arrest announcement. We put it out first, and then typically within hours, FCPS will put out the parental notification. So two things can be true at the same time. And I think one thing is we get accusations routinely, not just in a large school system, but within our communities. And when we're aware of each and every allegation made against a person, it doesn't result in some type of nebulous or vague notification that leaves people scratching their heads. But I understand the question, and I'm a parent of four myself, and I think we all understand the sentiment behind notifications, but we want to be right when we say someone's name out loud. We don't ever want to have to pull back an allegation because we weren't able to develop probable cause, and then someone's reputationally harmed forever, and the civil liabilities attached with that and ramifications. So all these conversations we have between our folks all the time, and I think we get it right more often than not.
Follow-up question to that. And I'm not suggesting that FCPS, by the way, should have named the teacher right away, but just maybe a more general response, encouraging parents to have conversations with their kids.
Yeah, I think that's something they routinely do. They're pretty good at it.
Do they do it in this case?
I think they constantly do it. The communications that go out from FCPS and FCPD, our school resource officers, all 55 or so of them, there's constant communication encouraging young people to trust their teachers, trust their coaches, trust their cops. So I think that's something that's ongoing.
And the follow-up question was, well, I understand with Berkowitz, you asked FCPS to wait on notification because it was an ongoing investigation. But with John Barber, if they had put out a notification, a general notification earlier, wouldn't that have helped your investigation? Maybe encouraging parents to come forward if they saw something or their child said something to them?
Yeah, Nick, I think I intellectually understand your question. It's such a hypothetical. The Barger case, and I don't say this with definity about much things in police work, the Barger case was handled in a textbook fashion, both with our detectives and with our communication with each other. And the most important thing is that Barger is being charged with crimes he committed against two young girls. And to have an investigation from allegation to a criminal charge take place in a matter of 20 days is something that we're proud of because we not only owe that to the victims, we owe it to the victims' parents, we owe it to the schools, and we owe it to our greater community. Does anybody else have any questions? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all so much for coming out today. If you can follow us on our blog or on any of our socials at Fairfax County PD, we will update with both the information on both cases we discussed today, and you can also find the tip line and any more information to help you speak with your children or people you love about issues like this. Thank you.